As President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden battle it out in the 2020 presidential election, their online campaigns are certainly worth examining. Since the rise of the internet, digital campaigns have grown increasingly significant as the power of old media has gradually given way to new media. For the 2020 election, that process is undoubtedly accelerated as the coronavirus has kept many indoors, allowing online media to significantly supplant traditional in-person efforts from door-to-door canvassing to campaign rallies. In this video, we'll look not only at how both campaigns are spending their funds online, we'll also look at the followings they've developed organically on social platforms and other indicators of online popularity. With all that information, we should be able to answer the question. Kind of a strange way to put it, but yeah, pretty much. Before we begin, a big shout out to the patrons. Special thanks to new supporters Donovan Shaw and Newsnight. You too can support Question Time Politics at patreon.com/questiontime. To kick things off, let's look at measures of online popularity outside of direct campaign media buys. The first place to look might be Google Trends, which will give us a good idea about the relative search traffic each candidate is receiving. While searches obviously do not necessarily translate into support, more searches means more interest from the general public and a higher likelihood that more voters will visit the candidate's campaign website and social media accounts, as well as third-party materials produced about that candidate. When it comes to search trends, it's quite clear that Trump is dominant. While web searches for Biden in the United States have increased significantly over the past year, Trump continues to maintain a massive lead. There are also more searches for President Trump on YouTube, in the news category, and even in the Google shopping section, probably because more people are looking to buy MAGA hats than this terrifying throw pillow. Of course, while search interest does indicate something about how interested Americans are about learning about a given candidate, they are by no means a definitive measure of who will win an election. We know this logically because people may be just as interested in a candidate for negative reasons as for positive ones, but here's a pretty good piece of evidence to support the same. If you break down search interest by state, Trump beats Biden in literally every state in the union. Even were Trump to have a massive election victory, there's almost zero chance that he would win in states like California, Vermont, Washington, and New York. And yet, even in those states, there are clearly far more searches for Trump than there are for Biden. The searches are very much not the same thing as support. What we can surmise from the search dominance of Trump is that for most Americans, this election is more of a referendum on Trump than it is a decision about Biden. That is to say, Trump's record as president and his campaign will likely be a larger contributing factor to the election results than the same for Biden. In my humble opinion, that's likely to actually benefit Biden. Assuming both candidates are significantly flawed and unappealing under close scrutiny, which I do, the closer the electorate looks, the worse off the candidate is likely to fare. Of course, if you believe that both candidates are fantastic choices, you'd probably conclude the opposite, that the closer scrutiny on Trump will be an advantage for the current occupant of the White House. Next, let's look at the online communities supporting each candidate. Now, over on Reddit, the biggest pro-Trump subreddit used to be r/thedonald, but no longer, as Reddit banned the community in early July. Just prior to the closing of this subreddit, it had amassed well over 790,000 members. I happened to mention the size of this community in a video back at the end of April, and at that time it was at 793,000. At the same time, the subreddits supporting Biden were decidedly smaller. Biden's presence on Reddit is pretty soft. I found one subreddit with less than 15,000 members. Another less official-looking Biden subreddit has 91,000. Even though Reddit has quarantined the community, r/thedonald has 793,000 members. Today, the Joe Biden subreddit has grown to 37,000 members. That's substantial growth, but the pro-Trump community is already more than catching up. Just a month after the closure of r/thedonald, r/Trump has grown to over 60,000 members. r/Donald Trump has grown to around 28,000 members. Another Trump-related subreddit, Ask Trump Supporters, has 85,000 members. This is clearly a strong sign for Trump. Even with the significant handicap of losing the largest Trump group on the site, the presence of his supporters appears to be significantly larger. Over on Twitter, Donald Trump has a significant following of 84.7 million. That's more than 10 times larger than Joe Biden's following of 7.8 million on the platform. According to data collected by Social Blade, Trump's Twitter page also grows at an average rate of over 60,000 new followers per day. Already lagging behind, Biden's Twitter growth is significantly slower, as he earns less than 40,000 new followers per day. On Instagram, the Donald's following is 21.3 million. Biden's following on the platform is once again about 10% that of Trump's. He has 2.9 million followers. According to Social Blade, Biden's following has been growing by around 10,000 per day on IG. Not bad, but not outpacing Trump either, who is growing at an average rate of 17,000 new followers per day. On Facebook, Trump has 28 million likes and 30 million total followers. For Joe Biden, once again, the figures are about 10%. He has 2.2 million likes and 2.4 million followers. According to Social Blade, Trump's likes total is growing by about 14,000 per day. Biden's Facebook page is receiving just 5,000 likes per day. Finally, looking at Social Blade's statistics for YouTube, Donald Trump's channel has 580,000 subscribers and a grand total of 52 million views. Biden has 103,000 followers and 26 million views. Trump's YouTube channel is growing at a rate of 1.3 thousand subscribers per day and 173,000 views per day. Biden is growing at a slower rate when it comes to subscribers, earning less than 1,000 each day. Not much more than half the growth of Trump. When it comes to viewership, however, Biden is on the upswing, gaining 278,000 views per day, substantially more than the viewership for Trump. Overall then, when it comes to searches, social media, and other online communities, Trump is clearly beating out Biden. While Biden may be gaining more views on YouTube at the moment, by just about every other measure of online popularity, Trump's stats are stronger, often by a factor of 10. There are, of course, a number of factors that could contribute to explaining the great disparity in popularity online for the two candidates. For one thing, Trump likely receives a huge amount of interest just because of his status as president. Interest in him goes well beyond the interest in his campaign. As president, of course, he has tremendous power, and the presidency itself is arguably enough to make him the most watched person on Earth. Since growing online followings requires time, no doubt part of the explanation is the fact that Trump was a celebrity before he became a politician, built up his following during his 2016 campaign, and continued to build on his campaign immediately after taking office, filing for his 2020 run on his inauguration day. Biden, on the other hand, of course, decided not to run in 2016 and only really began building his social media presence during the 2020 primaries. Another factor that helps to explain the disparity in online popularity is the disparity in campaign expenditures. As I pointed out in my video about campaign fundraising for each candidate, Trump's head start in the election came with a head start in fundraising. As it stands right now, according to Open Secrets, Biden plus pro-Biden outside groups have raised a combined $410 million so far. For Trump, that figure is only slightly higher at $415 million combined. However, this relative balance is a recent state of affairs. Trump's money came earlier, allowing his campaign to have more time to spend it. So far, Biden's campaign has spent around $75.6 million on media, representing around 46% of his campaign's total expenditures. For Trump, that figure is $126.3 million and represents 53% of his expenditures. Significant portions of those media budgets have gone to online ads. Biden's campaign has spent around $42 million on online ads, while Trump has spent over twice as much, $94 million. But their campaign spending is just part of the picture, if we're really interested in overall impact for the candidates. Adding in outside groups, Trump has benefited from around $105 million, whereas Biden's total is around $66 million. By platform, Trump's spending totals about $48 million on Google and $56 million on Facebook. For Biden, it's $26 million spent on Google and $40 million spent on Facebook. One bit of interesting data we also have is state-by-state breakdowns of Facebook spending. there are some surprising trends here. For one thing, both campaigns have pumped a lot of spending into the largest states, including California, Illinois, and New York. That's kind of interesting since all three states are widely considered to be Biden strongholds. So neither candidate should really expect to gain much by targeting those states. We do see high amounts of spending in most of the states currently considered to be the most competitive though. According to the 270 to win consensus map, the toss-up states are Ohio, Arizona, Georgia, Florida, and North Carolina, as well as the second districts of Nebraska and Maine. Now, neither campaign has put much money into either Maine or Nebraska, but all the 5 full states in serious contention here have each been targeted with at least $1 million of Facebook ads. The only exceptions being Ohio and Georgia, where Biden has spent between $500,000 and $1 million so far. There has also been widespread speculation that Midwestern and Rust Belt states, like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Minnesota, will be the definitive battlegrounds, and both campaigns have put a lot of money into those states. Very surprisingly, at least to me, Trump has also put substantial money into some what I consider to be very strange places: Alabama, Tennessee, Indiana, and Missouri, all of which are widely expected to go to Trump even if Biden were to win in a landslide. Trump's also pumped a lot of money into Washington and New Jersey, which are solid blue states. Biden too has some surprising spending, dumping over $500,000 into states like Washington, Colorado, and Maryland, all pretty Democratic states. Virginia, which has traditionally been considered to be a swing state, is currently listed as likely Democratic by the 270 to win consensus map, but both Biden and Trump appear to see it as a battleground, with Biden spending over $800,000 in the state and Trump spending $1.5 million. Overall, when it comes to having the bigger presence online, the current occupant of the White House has a clear advantage. There are more searches for Trump than there are for Biden. His social media influence is larger and growing by most measures by faster rates. Trump has also enjoyed a financial advantage, which has allowed him to buy more online media space. On the other hand, Biden has been outpacing Trump's fundraising by significant amounts. Just a few weeks ago, when I released a video about the relative fundraising efforts of both campaigns, it was clear that Biden's fundraising was quickly picking up, but it wasn't clear whether he'd catch up to Trump. But by some measures, he already has closed that gap. If Biden can translate his fundraising into online visibility, it's not inconceivable that his presence online can likewise close the gap. But as it now stands, Donald Trump remains the answer to this question. Really don't know why I picked that particular phrasing.